जयपुर वाया कोटा।
कृपया ध्यान आपको अहमदाबाद
दिल्ली में आपका स्वागत.
Lucknow Junction.
ನಿಲ್ದಾಣದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಹೊರಟಿರುವರೈ
পরবর্তী স্টেশন নেতাজি ভবন. कृपया ध्यान दियो.
Another day, another last over finish. The IPL just keeps churning out these last over finishes. Hello and welcome back to Cricbuzz Live. My name is Saiyami Kher. I have Shaun Pollock and Michael with us. Michael, well, you called this not quite the homecoming that Rajasthan were looking for, though.
Yeah, well, they should have won. You know, I think if they're, and they will be in the dressing room in 3 or 4 minutes' time, they'll have a discussion. I don't think they went hard enough. You know, I always thought that, you know, look at Butler, 40 or 41, that's very unlike Josh Butler. And then you started to see, you know, Jarrell gets out first ball, he nearly hits that 6, which would have made it interesting. Ashwin only came out to face a couple of balls. I think they could have gone harder sooner and it would have been a better chase. It was almost as if they were just relying on one of the top two to see them through to 18 and 19 and hoping for a cameo. I think they'll be in that dressing room thinking they could have played that differently.
Paul, you know, we spoke about this in the comm box. They were 73 for no loss at the 10 over point. Considering they're not lost a single wicket till the 10 over point, the wickets just kept tumbling down. We have a look here.
Yeah, I think the hard part, the surprising part for me was that there must have been communication in that dressing room that people coming to the crease will struggle with regards to getting the pace of the service, being able to whack it. And I mean, they were pretty adept at hitting. LSG were knowing the length they had to hit. They were whacking into the surface. Oddman was holding on. Oddman was skidding through. So in those circumstances, you want a big power play because you get ahead of the rate. And then if you do lose a wicket or two, the guys coming in have actually got those 3 or 4 deliveries just to get themselves in, and then they can try and see if they can find their timing. But although they didn't lose any wickets, they weren't ahead of the rate. They were like behind. I mean, at one stage, Padikkal gets out. I mean, Jaswal gets out. He's got 41 of 35. At that stage, Butler had 35 of 35. So the strike rate wasn't where it needed to be from the two of them. Someone there had to pull the trigger, and they didn't do so. And even the firepower that they've possessed, and maybe because of the last game, lured into the fact that, oh, don't worry, don't panic. But I think they could have read the surface better and tried to be ahead of it a bit easier.
And do you all think maybe the batting order should have been a little different considering Riyan Parag came in? I think he took 7 balls to get those 2 runs in. If probably a Jurel could have come in earlier because he's been in a better touch.
Yeah, I just think the top order could have gone more aggressive and been a bit harder with the lineup that they have and the depth that they've got in this batting lineup. But I think Polly's made a really good point in when you win a game like the game before where you win from nowhere, you sometimes start to believe that you can win from nowhere every time. It's very rare that you win games like they won the previous game. I just didn't think they got the strategy right. But full credit to Lucknow. I thought the bowling was excellent. You know, they got the slow balls working well. They kind of got the batters hitting to the bigger side. You know, the slow balls were grabbing into the surface, so it was a good pitch to be bowling the slow balls on. But, you know, I thought KL's captaincy was excellent. You know, he kept calm, he kept on manoeuvring his troops. Stoinis, for his first ball in the IPL of this year, did a good job, got a key wicket the first one. You just look at the figures there, Avish Khan, 3 for 25, he was excellent. I thought Navin ul Haq at the start, he set the tone. You know, he was the one that set the tone at the start of the innings. 11 dots, going for 19 off his 4 no wickets, but I actually thought he was the pick of the bowlers without getting the returns in terms of the wicket column.
Yeah, I mean, when they picked the side, obviously with Wood missing, I looked and I thought, ul Haq, I don't know too much, but I haven't seen much about him. And then the other opener, and I thought, I think this attack's underdone. Spinning-wise, I wasn't too concerned, and especially once they brought Mishi. But ul Haq was superb. I mean, his little variations, and it's very subtle. It seems like it's a difficult, slow delivery to pick out of the hand. So, yeah, he did a fantastic job. Even when he came in at the back end there, you know, he held his nerve nicely. So, with a relatively inexperienced, if you look around the IPL, there's a lot more experienced campaigners and bowling attacks than what they've got there. But they've held their nerve well.
I know, I mean, I was listening to you all in the green room and you're really impressed with Naveen. He's kind of spoke a little bit that I've read up about him is that he's spoken about how he used to get really worked up before a big game, and he's changed that about him. He said that he's not get sleep like 3 in the morning before a big game. He said, I'm just not going to worry about the result and focus on what I have in hand, and that's made him a better bowler. So how much of this pressure for someone who's relatively new to, well, a big stage like this matters, because he clearly has overcome that pressure to become this better bowler?
Well, I think first and foremost, being nervous before big games is normal. You know, I think any player that's going to play any kind of game of cricket in front of a big audience for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, you're always having a few sleepless nights. The more that you do it, the more used you get to playing in front of the big audiences, the more you get used to performing. Tonight will do him a huge amount of good because he's gone up against the best player in the world in Joss Buttler. And I'm not saying he had Joss Buttler on toast, but he quieted Joss Buttler. And Joss Buttler on any surface against pretty much most bowlers around the world, he can get you. And I thought the way that he bowled to Joss was excellent. You know, his slow ball variations, angling it into the stumps. I thought he was just the kind of perfect bowler for the surface against that opening combination. So yeah, he'll take a huge amount of confidence from performing on the big stage tonight. The IPL, the games come thick and fast, and now the pressure's on. He's got to do it again in the next game. The pitch will be different, the conditions will be slightly changed. Will the slow balls work on the next venue? And the bowlers that have longevity, like Polly and many others over the years, they've been able to adapt game in, game out. They've been able to adapt to the conditions in terms of what they're up against at that moment. So I guess
he might not play the next game.
He might not play. And also, he looks a very good slow ball bowler. And when you bowl slow balls regularly, you know, there'll be cameras on him. And all the opposition now will have a camera of his arm. What are these slow balls? What's coming out of his hand? Because tonight it looked like it was a surprise to the batter. In the next game, it won't be as much as a surprise because someone will have a camera on his hand to make sure that the batters get the information for when they face him next. So it's just all about always kind of logging the memory, kind of keep logging into the computer to add a bit more storage. But he was excellent tonight. He looks like he's got a bit of a gift for that slow ball. But he'll get challenged in the future because they'll see it
a little
more.
similar to what happened to Vishak from RCB because he was the first. He was really good in his first game. I think some 20 odd runs that he gave. But then the next game I think went for 62 or 60 plus runs. So yes, he was very impressive today. But let's just hope he comes good in the second game as well.
Yeah, I just think that Chinnaswamy. That's also got to put that equation into Razak. I mean, he's having to operate there. That is a completely different beast. So if Ulhaq goes to the Chinnaswamy, good luck with those slow balls and trying to keep it inside the stadium.
If he's smart though, like a lot of really clever bowlers are smart, and if he goes to the Chinnaswamy, he probably gets a little bit of a niggle in his string, his hamstring. He just needs a game off for that venue.
Give it a rest. Get Mark Wood back with that.
Yeah, Mark Wood suited to that venue. Nice and quick.
But you think they missed Mark Wood or it was happy? I mean, they would be happy with what Stoinis has done today because even his slower ones were coming off well today.
Yeah, Stoinis is really good. I mean, I think he needs to try and play more of a role. You know, I don't know what kind of individual he is behind the scenes, whether he says, listen, I'm keen to bowl, get me in those pressure situations. But he seems like a bit of a carefree cricketer. And with the ball in his hand, I think he can play a role. And that two big wickets that he got there tonight, his run rates that he went for, he hit the perfect length, he understood what was required. So when I was looking at that bowling attack, I was thinking they were a bit short of possibilities and options. So when he stood up tonight, it was really important for them.
Even Ravi Bishnoi was pretty impressive today because he was bowling a tight line, but he got, I think he went for not more than 6 in his overs. So he was somebody who was also impressive.
Yeah, again, I mean, I think the surface helped him because he doesn't get a huge amount of bounce, and tonight's surface, it was just skidding onto the bat. He bowled nice and straight to the right hand as he kind of gets it angling in. He gives no width. So I do think the surface helped a lot of the bowlers tonight because it was quite a nice one to bowl, and the outfield was big. A lot of the IPL venues, the outfield just seems to shrink every year. It seems to get smaller and smaller.
Most of the shots would have gone for sixes, you know. Like today, a lot of times when we said that, oh, that's a great shot, it was caught right at the boundary. So.
Yeah, so I think the pitch helped the bowlers, and I think the outfield helped the bowlers. You don't get that in every IPL game, so enjoy it while it lasts, because it's only on one venue that you get a little bit of something in your favour as a bowler.
I think they often show the graphics like a 63-metre 6 or a 68-metre 6. On these fields, you need to show a 67-metre court on the fence just to show how close it was to some of the other grounds. Because I think that last one in particular, that last over, I mean, that was a really good strike. When it came off the bat, I thought, wow, you've walked in and you've middled it. But that would have had to probably have carried 80 metres to get over that boundary.
But it was a great catch by Huda, right, under pressure and right on the boundary line. So great catch by Huda. But again, do you think Jurel should have come up the order? Or
yeah, for me it's a no-brainer. You've got to send him before Parag. I mean, when he comes to the crease, and the first stat that Kevin Peterson gave was he hasn't got a score over 10 We looked at the way Jarrell had struck it in the last game. You know, sometimes I understand you want to get your players back into form and maybe get them going. But at that stage of the game, it was the result that was counting. And you've got to go with someone who's looked like he's striking it okay. So Parag was a surprise that he came in at that point.
Well, you got Jarrell, you've got Ashwin. He's been striking it nicely.
Yes.
I think sometimes in T20 cricket you can overcomplicate it. T20 cricket is 120 balls. You've got 120 balls to divvy out against all your players. And when you've got players in form, get them out there. Yeah. It's like Paran. Paran should have been up the order. Paran's playing great for Lucknow.
Yes.
I mean, why leave until the last 5 or 6 when you're playing so well? You know, you've only got 60 balls to go in the second part of the innings. Get him out there. If you can get 30, 40 balls out of Nicholas Paran, he could get you a 70 or 80.
A lot of the defense to this argument has been, most of the captains have said, you know, we want to have someone hitting it hard in the last 3-4 overs, which is why they've kept people like a Puran towards the end. And today they got in a Huda up ahead, they got a Badoni up ahead. So the defense has been, we want that big hitter in the end.
I'll argue the case and say, why don't you want a hitter throughout the innings? You know, why wait till the last 4 or 5 overs? These players are too good. You know, why not kind of push the boundaries to say, you know, Nicholas Puran, all right, you want to be that back end. There's only a small few players can hit the older ball against spin, against a ball that's potentially just tailing away from the left-hander cleanly from ball 1, and he can do that. But he could do that from the 10th over. And he could do that from, say, hit it from 10 to 15. He's still going to get the same amount of runs if he's in there from 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. But he was there from 10 to 20. Just imagine how many he could get.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're established when the last 4 come, if you've been there for 20 balls when the last 4 overs come, you're going to be even more. I just think in this T20 format now, there's a lot more individuals. In 5 years ago, there probably wasn't as many, but these days, there's a lot more individuals who can get you 12 and over. I mean, everyone's experienced of doing it. There are very few bowlers who can defend 12 and over. So the advantage is always in the batter's hands. So I just think you get them out there as early as you can. I mean, even Dinesh Karthik, for example. I mean, do you think he's played, 180, 200 RPL games, but now they've pigeonholed him into, he can only bat for the last 3?
Yeah,
really?
Not fair.
He's opened the bat, he's batted in the middle overs. I mean, surely with all this experience, he can work it out. So I agree. Sometimes there's certain teams that you look and you think, overthinking it.
But where does Rajasthan go forward from here? Because this is their home ground. They are on the road for a bit, but they play Chennai next on this ground. So what can their takeaways be, or just understand the ground pitch a little better?
Yeah, I think by playing on it this evening, I mean, they won the toss and bowled and wanted to chase. They should have chased down the total. But I think it's not a venue that you think, oh, you only have to chase or you only have to set. I think you can win either way, but you know, tonight I looked at the surface and thought, you know, it probably looked quite a nice surface to have the runs on the board. You know, it seemed to get a little bit slower in the back end of the innings. But saying that, Rajasthan's mindset and their strategy chasing the relatively small number, it wasn't a great one tonight. You know, whether the pitch was playing in such a fashion that it was hard for the batters to get going early, only Joss Butler and Jaiswal can just, you know, tell us that. But you know, I think their mindset just looked a bit safe. You know, and to win anything, whether it's a game or a tournament, particularly in this era of cricket, you can't be safe. You've got to be willing to take risk and be more aggressive. And I think Rajasthan will be in that dressing room. They'll be saying, next time if we get into this situation on this venue, on that pitch, we've got to be a bit more aggressive.
I mean, Vaughan mentioned about the surface, and it wasn't a bad one to bowl on. And normally in these T20 games, it's almost like a bit of concrete. So from a bowling perspective, you've got to use your skills. So it's got to be your slow balls, your wide Yorkers, whatever it may be. Tonight was one of those few opportunities where actually you could use the surface to your advantage. If you ran in and hit it back of a length nice and straight, one was skidding on, the other one was holding up, it was difficult to work out. But that's what they need to do. If you've got all the visiting teams coming and you've got that experience of knowing what to expect on that surface, you can make it your fortress. I mean, in the old days in the soccer, for example, when the classy sides came with their wonderful fields, they'd make these big bumpy ones. And it was hard to control the ball and they couldn't play their passing game. That's what they've got at Jaipur there now. And now that they've played one, they've got a good understanding. So I'd be very surprised if they don't play better over the next few games that they've got there.
You know, the last time Rajasthan played, I wanted to specifically speak about Sanju Samson and how he captained very well. I think today Rahul was very impressive with his captaincy because just like we spoke about, moving around the bowlers at the correct time, getting in the Stoinis to come, probably he also was fully fit to bowl. But just Rahul, the captain today, was impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I look at KL Rahul as a captain. I don't see him as a natural leader. You know, I see him as a very good batter. I see him as a very good Test match batter. I see him as an excellent 50-over batter. I think he's struggling in T20 cricket at the minute to get his kind of tempo right. As a captain, I don't often not notice him. I don't often watch the game and think, oh, you can see the captaincy kind of hat on KL Rahul. Tonight, I could see it. I could see that he was quite animated. I could see that he was making the moves. I could see that he was talking to his bowlers. I could see that he was really getting his field set for every kind of play. Whether he knew he was up against Rajasthan, it was 1 versus 2. He wanted to get back up level with Rajasthan. I'm not too sure, but he looked a little bit more animated. Whether it's because he realised his batting is not quite what it should be at the minute as a leader, as a batter, I'm not too sure. But tonight I could see the captain. I've not seen that for a while.
Well, this is his first win against Rajasthan, so he clearly has done all his homework when he came into today's game.
Yeah, I mean, some teams, you think of Mumbai Indians of the past where you've got your Bolt from one side, you've got Bumrah, you have a Malinga. It can be easy to captain because they know their roles and you know where you're kind of going to fit them in. Tonight, the reason why I was impressed is I wasn't sure who was going to play what role. And I thought he got them all on in the right time. And when the wickets started to fall, I thought he mixed it up and made it difficult to try and target any individual. So, yeah, I was impressed. And you could also see his emotion about getting through the overs. He was aware of the time. People are a bit slow these days.
Yes.
Hey? I mean, how many more punishments are we going to see by the end of this RPL? But, yeah, I think he rallied his troops well.
Well, Lucknow has picked up those 2 points. We'll have a look at the points table and see what changed because Rajasthan are still at the top with the run rate. Lucknow still at 2. So clearly it was a nice table topper game that we got today, but the points haven't toppled anyone over the 1 and 2 points.
No, I'm liking. Can we just have that table back up? I mean, pretty much everyone's still in it, apart from one at the bottom. Delhi have just not arrived. They've not shown up yet. They've got time, but they're looking a long way off qualifying. But you just look at that, Hyderabad, they've got 4 points. You know, the next game they win, they could end up in 3rd or 4th place. It's such a tight league. It's what the IPL is all about. It's so competitive, the best players in the world. But I do think the 2 teams that we've seen tonight will be right there at the end.
14 games, right? Each team plays.
Yes.
So at the top of the table, they've got 8 left. And they probably only have to win 3. Maybe 4, and they can almost find themselves already qualified. So that's the luxury that you have, because look at their net run rate of Rajasthan and Lucknow. It's pretty positive there. So that almost plays into their hands. So, yeah, they're not not far off thinking about that. A couple of good games and you've almost got qualification. And that's the important part at this stage, is to get yourself quickly there, and then everything settles itself down and then you wait for the playoffs.
But surprisingly, everyone on the list has lost 1 game at home. So trying to make the fortress their own has not really well worked out for any of the teams so far.
Well, I think it's because most teams have got, I think 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you'd look down the list of players and there was great players, but you'd kind of go, 1 or 2 match winners in each team. You really do see 4 or 5 match winners in each team now. And that's why it's so hard to predict each game and who's going to win. Because you look down both 11s, you go, well, if that player turns and that player turns up, well, you're not quite sure which way it's going to go. At 10 over mark in the second innings tonight, we thought Rajasthan were going to stroll the game, and then all of a sudden a wicket falls and another wicket falls and they end up coming short. It's such a tight league because of the standard of all the players. It's an amazing tournament.
I think also the way it's been structured over the last few years has contributed to that. I mean, the 1 full season was in Dubai, and then the next season was kind of selected venues where all the games happen. So maybe they're not in touch with exactly what the right conditions are or what the conditions are going to do at their own home grounds. We talk about Rajasthan. What's that, their first game in 3 years that they're having on the ground? They almost can forget how it plays. But by the end of this season, trust me, they'll have a really good understanding, and it will be an opportunity to get that fortress.
Well, we need to move on to what's happening tomorrow because, yes, it's a weekday, but there are 2 exciting games that we will be previewing. The first one is Punjab versus Bangalore. It's match number 27. It happens in Mohali tomorrow. And later in the day is KKR versus Delhi. But first, let's focus on the first game that comes in the afternoon tomorrow. Well, Punjab has been a little lucky in the last game. No Shikhar Dhawan. He hopefully will be fit to come in. Sikandar Raza got that 50 in, which kind of helped them go past the finish line. Shah Rukh got that. He finally came into his own and he got that form. I think he got some 20 odd runs. So that went well for Punjab. So they'll be hoping that Shikhar comes up. We'll see the squad. We'll get Punjab squad in to see who probably comes in, who goes out. Atharva Taide probably will sit out for Shikhar that once Shikhar is in. But besides that, any changes you'll see coming in?
They definitely need Shikhar back because they've had some issues at the top of the order. But yeah, I mean, that long streak, I think it's 12 years, what is it, between his RPL games?
Yes.
It doesn't look like they've got enough firepower or they've got a game plan at the top. The other guys, Sam Curran, Raza started to come good, Sharma and Shahrukh Khan in the middle. You know, those guys are fun. Liam Livingston.
I mean, that's a question to ask Michael because he's come in today. Michael, where is Livingston? Why isn't he playing?
I know he's here. You know, you mentioned the top of the order. If I was Punjab, I'd send Shikhar out with Liam Livingston.
Provided Livingston comes in and plays. So
Yeah,
that's just a question mark. No one knows why he's not playing.
Well, he's been injured and he got injured in Pakistan in the
But
test
that
match.
was in December.
It was a bad injury. It was a bad thing. All I know is back home in Manchester about 2 weeks ago, the county season started and I saw Liam Livingston running around the outfield.
Okay,
And
that's
he was
good
running,
news.
he was running, and he announced that he was getting on the plane and he's come to India. So he's clearly going to be close to playing. If he is fit and he can get out there, he's a huge addition. You know, not only with his striking, but he offers you a little bit of off spin. He offers you a bit of, it's not great leg spin, but if the right-handers are out there, there's a bit of purchase. He can bowl you a bit of leg spin. If he's moving okay, and I'm sure he will have to be fit to play, his fielding's magnificent. So he's a real kind of modern-day T20 player. But if they are struggling at the top of the order and they need a firecracker who will go for it from ball one, Livingston could be the man with Shikhar.
Has he ever done that job?
Yeah.
To top?
Yeah.
Well, we're really hoping he comes in because there was all that paperwork which wasn't in place. But, well, paperwork's in place and he's here because he went and spoke saying, I'm here and stuff. The three trio that has really impressed is Sam Curran, Arshdeep and Rabada. So that's a big positive for them.
Yeah, bowling-wise, there's no issues. They've got most of those bases covered, and now that KG's back in, Arshdeep probably has been a little bit off colour. He hasn't been as good as we've seen. You know, I mean, I was a bit surprised at how well he went in the World Cup, but now that he went that well, I was expecting those kind of similar standards.
I mean, he's been good in the power play, which has been a new addition to him, but he's still been a little subdued as compared to what we expected him to be.
Yeah, I think in the last game, I think he went for his most expensive power play. And then at the back end, Chahar, I like what he brings. I mean, even Nathan Ellis, if they decide to go that option, he was really good when he was tried, and I was actually felt for him once he got left out. So bowling-wise, I don't have an issue. I just think the batting hasn't clicked, and even Sam Curran's batting hasn't kind of clicked from what you can see from him. So good start, and maybe that's what I said last time, is if Livingston does come, you know, if there is a middle-order combination of Livingston and Curran, those two might feed off each other. But they do need something because Shikhar's just been bearing the weight of everything on his shoulders. And the biggest surprise was that they managed to get over the line without him.
Yes. We'll have a look at the squad again because I want to know who your overseas picks are going to be for tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think they'll leave out Matthew Short. I've liked what I've seen from him. He's had 2 knocks now and he's got 30 of not many deliveries. I think he just needs to learn the art of knowing that the power play does come to an end and you're allowed to bat for 3 or 4 overs after that. So I would think they would go. I mean, I suppose, how do you leave out Sikandar Raza, the way he played?
Yeah.
So then I suppose Livingston, who does he? Rajapaksa won't play. I can see him definitely not playing. But I suppose the challenge will be, how do you get Livingston if he's fit? But I still think it would be the right call for Raza to sit and Livingston to play long term.
If Livingston's fit, he has to play.
Yes.
Yeah, they've paid a lot of money for him. He's you know, we talked pre-show about, you know, you buy players basically to win your games.
Yes.
You know, over the course of the next, what have they got left? 9 games. Would Livingston, if he's fit, win you a game or 2? Absolutely. So
But would you get a Rabada or would you get a Nathan Ellison? Because Nathan Ellis has done really well, but it's Rabada. So.
Rabada's got to play.
You've got to go for Rabada.
And moving on to RCB, because they take on RCB, who lost to Chennai in their last match. It was a big, high-scoring game. There was Faf and Maxi who put up that great show, but wasn't enough.
No, I mean, Faf has been in fine form. I just think
He had that little strain which caused a lot of discussion amongst women, especially after he put that shirt up, and a lot of discussion.
He's got his tattoo, hasn't he? On
He's
that,
got
on
a
that
new
left.
tattoo.
Oh, they're
I saw
discussing the tattoo.
Yeah, just the tattoo.
Yeah.
But will he be playing tomorrow? Because I think Simon was in the other day and he said if it's a stomach strain, it can take more than 2-3 days.
Yeah, I think what you've got to understand is there's South Africans and then there's Englishmen. And the South Africans tend to get out there. It's like, can you get Mark Wood? Can you get Livingston on the park?
Just to remind you that England players generally just win World Cups. They might get injured now and again, but they win World Cups.
Okay, that's why. So they keep themselves fit for the World Cup.
There's a World Cup coming up in a few months. They can't risk it. They're going to win another one.
Okay, so you say he's in because South Africans are always in, and
You've got a South African physiotherapist there as well. Evan Speechley's the South African physiotherapist. I think the big one for me is the contribution. I mean, Maxwell's a no-brainer. The contribution from Hasaranga and Parnell. They've made little contributions, but not kind of enough. And if there's any international star to miss out, there would be one of those, I think, whether you would go Bracewell or would you go Willie. I'm not 100% sure. I know Hazelwood's still recovering. But I don't see them changing much. It's a difficult ground to defend on, the Chinnaswamy. So eventually when you move away from there, I would expect them to show a bit of faith in the bowlers and say, okay, these are a bit more bowler-friendly conditions. You should be able to do a little bit better here. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah, you'd feel hard come to as a bowler if you miss out on a venue away from your home venue, which is just the road, and the boundary is about the size of that table. It's just ridiculous. I don't think they need to change much. Obviously, Faf's injury will be one that they look at, but
Vishak, he went for a plenty. So you think they will back him? The first game was great, but his last game he went for quite a few.
Yeah, I believe in loyalty and a little bit of consistency in selection. I think when you start swapping and changing on the back of one iffy performance on an absolute road, I think that's when you start to create a bit of confusion in your group. I personally, when I was playing, I always used to like 4 or 5 games of consistent selection, and then you make a judgment over a period, unless the pitch is a pitch that suits a certain style of player, and then you have to make the decision. But if it's a similar pitch, I don't believe that you should be swapping and changing. I just don't think it creates the right culture around the team.
And if, the South Africans not fully fit to play tomorrow, do we see Maxi or do we see Virat captaining?
I don't know. Who's officially the vice captain?
Maxi was captaining when Faf was off the field, but that was temporary. So
maybe they'll stick with him. He had to bowl that last over as well when it was Harshal was bowling those beamers.
Yes, those two.
So I'm sure if that's the one they turn to, I think Virat quite likes the fact of just leaving it. I mean, he's involved as much as he will ever be anyway. It doesn't really matter. He's always discussing the tactics, but I'm sure they'd just give it to Maxwell if he was the one who did it last time.
So players to watch out for from each team, one from each team if you have to pick.
Well, I'm going to go Liam Livingstone if he plays. I just think
the Englishman spoken.
I just think if he plays and he can whack a ball.
Should we go with Faf comfortably there?
I'm going back to Shika for me. I want to see how he goes for them. Back at the top of the order, I'm sure he'll be keen to set his stall again. And then RCB, I don't know. I mean, those two batters are playing sweetly. So I just think it's their bowling, isn't it? So who can we watch in the bowling department? Well, I suppose it'll be down to who they decide to pick. I'm feeling there's got to be more from Hasaranga. I can't understand the Hasaranga situation. Like, how does he go as well as he does for Sri Lanka? How can he be rated number 1 in the world at some stage? But we're not seeing that level at this.
No, even the last season, he missed the purple cap by, I think, 1 wicket. So he was phenomenal last season as well.
We're not seeing it this year, but that's what I'm saying. So he goes away from the Chinnaswamy, maybe comes into his own. So I'm going Hasaranga.
I'm going to go Mohammad Siraj. I just think, I love watching him bowl. I just think the energy that he brings, and I think when you're bowling at Chinnaswamy, you have to have that mentality, right, I've just got to bowl fast. to charge in and just try and create a bit of chaos because you know the pitch is pure. I just love his mindset of bowling. You know, he just runs in and he makes it difficult. Even if he bowls the odd bad ball, he still gives you great body language. As a captain, that's a dream. That the bowler just wants to be out there competing. I like the way he gets, and him against Vaughan. I think that's a great kind of matchup straight away.
Well, we have another game, so we must get talking about that as well because Delhi take on Kolkata in Delhi. This is a game number 28. And well, Delhi, what can one say? 5 games, they've lost all 5. David Warner would really want to get that one game in and those 2 points, at least get those 2 points in.
Yeah, all I can say is it's been quite a bit of time. It was 3 and 4 days since their last match, and I'd love to be in that camp because I'm sure there must have been some honest discussions. You can't be 0 from 5 and not get the guys in and say, come on, you know, either we're here to play or do you want to wave the white flag and get on the plane and go home, because they haven't been anywhere near. And it's been the batting woes as well. You know, David Warner's been the consistency. But besides that, you know, they tried Riley Rousseau for a while. They tried Robin Powell. Phil Salt hasn't had a gig. Mitchell Marsh has come back after being married. But no one, I mean, the only really contributions that I can remember offhand is Warner and Akshar Patel. Akshar Patel was great in that one game where he struck it and nearly got them. But it has been the batting, and it's almost cramped David Warner's style because there's been no other partnerships for him to talk with. He's kind of been at a strike rate which is unusual to see him at. He hasn't been firing on all cylinders because he hasn't been able to. He's kind of looking, well, we've got to post something rather than me going out and being aggressive. So plenty of batting. What they got Shane Watson, they got Ricky Ponting, they got Sourav Ganguly. So I mean,
a lot of people in the dugout.
They can each take one individual and work with them and see what they can do.
Maybe they should play.
But it's just concerning that none of the Indian batters have really clicked. I mean, Manish Pandey got, I think, 50 in the last game. But
him,
there was Prithvi, there's Yash Dhool, there's Lalit Yadav, Abhishek Porel. So all these names who, well, we think will click now, click then. It's been 5 games, no one's clicked.
Yeah, I mean, Yash Dhool's an outstanding young talent, but it's just not working for him. Prithvi Shaw gets all the attention, plays the odd incredible stroke, but there's clearly some issue with him now. I just feel that the opposition now know up front, if you put some pace against him, you know, his footwork is nowhere to be seen. He seems to get away to the leg side, he opens up those 3 stumps, and I think it's like, I know a T20 cricket's hard for the bowler, but when you see a batter offering all 3 stumps, I think you fancy that as a bowler when you see that.
I also think with Prithvi, I think he's suffering. So what we saw tonight is Chahal finishes his overs, Padikkal comes on for the last 5. Prithvi just sits. He just sits in the dugout and then puts the pads on and goes out and bats. And you sometimes feel that as a batter that they kind of need to get into the game a little bit, you know. So I think it might also be a great idea to try and, if they are going to make the substitution, if they are batting second, to try and get him in for a few overs, just so he can get running around, get his feet moving. Because he has seemed like he's just been stuck.
Yeah,
I mean, he got run out.
But I do
in the
think
last
Polly
game.
is a young batter. I mean, I wasn't a great fielder, but I think in this modern era of the game, I think his pride should be hugely hurt if he's that player sitting in the dugout. As a young person, he should be desperately working on his fielding. With Ricky Ponting, who was one of the greatest fielders of all time, he should be saying to Ricky Ponting, you've got to make me into a really good fielder so I'm not sat in the dugout. I don't want to be that person that sits in the dugout because, look, we'd all love to have done it, but realistically, it's a little bit of it's not a great look, is it?
Slap in the face.
You're the one chosen to not go out and field. You're a good batter, and by the way, you're not scoring many runs at the minute, so you're just there to bat, and you're not doing that well, and you're not in the team to field. If I was him, I'd be knocking on Ricky's door going, Ricky, you've got to make me into a better fielder. I don't want to be sat in the dugout. And that's the mentality, and I bet you he isn't. I bet you he doesn't look like the kind of character to me that he'll be knocking on Ricky's door saying, I don't want to be sat in that dugout. He's probably sat in that dugout going, this is great. Yeah. I'm quite enjoying not fielding, and that's not a great attitude to have.
As an all-rounder, we used to feed off our different performances. So you bat well, and you take it into your bowling. You bowl well, you take it into your batting. And even as a fielder, if you get on there, if you make a brilliant 1 or 2 stops, if you take a good catch or cause a run out, it gives you a bit of an edge.
I mean, Deepak Hooda will have confidence after that catch that he took today. Or like Ajinkya, they said he saved that 6 at the boundary line. So,
but it's not only the catches and the dives and the stops, but you want to be involved in the tactical side of the game. You know, you as a player, if you're one of the 11 out there, you should be thinking like the captain. And at one point in that fielding moment, you might go up to the captain, David Warner, and think, David, why don't we try this one? And Dave might go, brilliant, Pritville, we'll go with that. And it might work, and straight away you as a player go, I've added to the team without scoring a run. I've given the captain a tactical manoeuvre which has worked, which puts you in credit.
Yeah.
You're already a few in credit before you go and get any runs. So, yeah, I don't like to see young players chosen to be the ones missing out in the field.
There's also little team talks. Like, so, for example, you're out there and you're bowling, and in the first 6, there's a certain plan, and you get a wicket and you come together, and the captain says, listen, guys, the length we need to hit here is back of a length straight because it's seeming to be difficult to hit away. If you're on the sideline, you miss out on it, and then you walk in kind of cold as to what you can or can't do.
Well,
but let's move on.
We really hope to see Prithvi in tomorrow after all this these tips that we've got on why a player should be in. But let's look at Kolkata squad and what they've got for tomorrow. Venkatesh Iyer got that big 100 the other day. Cricbuzz hasn't really been able to strike. So that question of who comes in, will a Jason Roy or a Lithan Das come in, still, has not been answered. The bowling didn't really look great the other day with Ferguson, Umesh Yadav, Varun Chakravarti, there's Suyash Sharma. They've got those mystery spinners in. What changes do you all see happening tomorrow?
I see 2. Either Roy or Lithan Das. Cricbuzz, I'm afraid. You've had your time and you haven't been able to show. And then I would go Tim Southee. I think him in place of Lockie Ferguson. Lockie hasn't quite been on form, and I think Southee and his control on that Delhi surface would be the better option.
I must admit, when I look at the KKR squad, I mean, he's got some good names in that, but they don't stand out to me as a squad that can win the IPL. You know, I think they've got decent players.
They've surprised us because there have been a lot of surprise elements that have come in.
Yeah.
But the bowling needs to fire, you all think? The bowling hasn't really
Well,
fired.
you're looking at 2 players in Narayan and Russell that have been there forever. And you keep looking and going, can they do it again? Can they keep producing? And it's very hard for the older brigade to keep producing. And it's the same story that they swap and change a lot. So they're not consistent in selection. And that opening partnership at the top, I mean, there's no point in talking about it because we've got no clue. You might as well just pick it out. Well, I think they do pick it out of a hat in the morning. We go, who's going to open the batting? But you know, Jason Roy's a player that I think could add something to the side. He's a very experienced opening player, and you know, if he gets it right and he's one of those players. If he gets streaky, if he gets it right early, he'll go on a few games run of getting consistent scores. So I think it's worth the gamble of putting Jason Roy at the top.
Well, they've had the most chop and change at the top of the order in the last 2 IPLs. I think they talked about there were something like 15 or 16 different combinations that they've tried. So, I mean, it is calling all pockets at this stage. I just think the spinners haven't quite been on song. You know, even Nareen, we've come to expect a certain standard from him. And him and Chakravarti haven't quite clicked as much as you would think they would, because they are 2 who you think would tie teams up. But I suppose they'll be going to bed thinking, well, if there's any opportunity to get it right, it's against this current Delhi batting lineup who haven't been showing much form.
Well, if you'll have to pick your 2 players to watch out for from both teams, who's it going to be?
I'm going whoever Kolkata decide to pick out of Lithan Das and Jason Roy, because surely this will be the shining light for them, that they're hoping that someone will be able to get them off to a fast start.
I'm going Dre Russ. Dre Russ to produce some magic tomorrow. I like watching him play. He's going to come to the party tomorrow.
Short, straight boundaries there at Delhi too. So if he does get firing, it could be entertaining.
And for Delhi, who's it going to be?
Prithvi Shaw.
I'm going for my man Nokia. I want to see him charge.
He had a really good over the other day.
There in Delhi, yeah. I think he likes that serve. It's another similar one to this. I remember bowling-wise, you hit hard back of length, which he can do with his pace. And it kind of just squats and stays down in you. So I think he could be a real handful.
All right, then we'll wait and see what happens if the predictions on who's going to be the pick of the players comes true. But let's have a look at the joy factor question, because we have to answer that. Michael was very close there, so we'll get the answer.
Well, I gave everyone a clue, didn't I?
If it happened for the first time on 15th May 2008 and the second time on 21st May 2011, when did it happen for the third time? I've got quite a few answers of this on my Twitter as well. The answer is the 17th of April 2013, Amit Mishra's hat-trick in the tournament for Delhi, Deccan Chargers, and finally Hyderabad. So I think this was a question, Mr. Joy Bhattacharya, which we got answers to rather quickly. Michael got it as well because he gave that hint, and as soon as we went off air, he had the answer.
I actually didn't get it officially right.
Yeah,
I just
but
said hat
we give it
tricks.
to you. We give it to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
we
Kind
will
of
be
you.
kind to you.
we didn't go so well with our power play thing, so we're going to take something
Well.
tonight.
Well, let's see who's got the answer right and quickest. I know there are a whole lot of answers today, but Sai Prashant has got it, and he's constantly sent us a lot of answers. Sai Prashant, it's nice to see you come back and answer these questions very quickly. I know today's question was a little easy because I saw a lot of you all have commented on Twitter as well.
Easier for some.
Have
not
you
for us.
just said Joy's question was easy?
Yeah, it was, because usually you don't. I mean, now he'll just give us tougher ones, you know.
Yeah.
Because there was one which was also easy, and the next day I couldn't even read the question. It was that difficult. So I think tomorrow is going to be really, really tough. But today was a great day. Thank you so much for coming over from the flight. You've come directly to the studio,
I have.
and we love your energy here. Thank you so much. We'll be
you.
getting you here tomorrow as well,
You will. Looking forward to it.
and we give
See
you
me
an
Friday. I'm coming Friday.
so you have an off. So you have a break. You can enjoy your little break tomorrow and watch both the double headers and Cricbuzz in your hotel room. I think that's a good plan.
Sounds like a plan.
So Paulie is going to watch both the games, and of course us at Cricbuzz live from his hotel room. You all watch us at your homes, your workplace, wherever you all are. But don't forget to join us tomorrow at 3 p.m. and then at 7 p.m. We'll see you tomorrow.
Jaipur via Kota.
कृपया ध्यान आपको अहमदाबाद
दिल्ली में आपका स्वागत.
Lucknow Junction.
ನಿಲ್ದಾಣದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಹೊರಟಿರುವವರೇ ಚೆನ್ನೈ
Hyderabad Superfast Express পরবর্তী স্টেশন নেতাজি ভবন। कृपया ध्यान दो